I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News. In the race for commercially viable carbon capture and storage technology, a first of sorts in the first week of September. There is now the first ever commercially viable and fully integrated pulverized coal plant in operation, and it is now underway and storing CO2 as of September 1st. Joining us now to talk about this and the big picture regarding carbon capture and storage is Robert Hilton with Alstom. He is Vice President of Power Technologies for Government Affairs. Bob, great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, when I say big picture, your company is involved in CCS projects internationally. You're with EPRI in Wisconsin, E.ON in Sweden, also have a project in Germany. What is the status around the world, and who do you see as the country that's leading the way right now?
Really, the United States is very much out in front. Where, the size of the demos we're doing and the development here is really the top.
Mm-hmm. What about the two projects I mentioned overseas? First in Sweden with E.ON and also with Vattenfall in Germany.
Well, I should probably amend that a little bit. The work in both France and Germany on oxy-fired, in that category, we're clearly they're ahead of the States in terms of activity. We've got the Vattenfall plant, Schwarzepampa, and the retrofit oxy-fired unit in the south of France at Lac. But on the carbon capture side, in terms of post-combustion, with the plants here, the E.ON plant and the Mungstad plant will follow on in Europe and in basically Sweden and Norway, respectively. But
are you happy with the progress so far in Wisconsin? I know this is something of a crown jewel for EPRI as far as this field.
Wisconsin has been a complete success. It's exceeded our expectations. We met every target we had there. It was the proof of concept plant. It has gone extremely well. We've got over 6,000 hours on the plant running continuously, and we're planning now we're running to the end of the testing program, and we'll have a big public wrap-up in October.
What about the project that I mentioned off the bat now, first of sorts for the fully integrated pulverized coal plant? This is in West Virginia, the Mountaineer Plant project, partnering with AEP. And as I said, the first week of September, a major step forward.
Yeah, this was in a lot of ways just an incredible project. I mean, it was less than 2 years from start of engineering to completion of the project. We started up on September 1st, which was the target date. It's always great to make your targets. And lo and behold, we collected CO2. And the uniqueness of this is the first. Goes from burning coal through to cleaning the flue gas to capturing the CO2 and actually sequestering it. And we'll be sequestering it for the next, well, as long as this plant stays in operation.
A post-combustion process is in place. What about the storage? How did you choose the right formations, the right locations?
Oh, that was really AEP's doing with Battelle and as their partner, and it was one of the original 7 DOE regional sequestration sites, and it's probably the most characterized site in the United States now. And there's 2 production wells there and monitoring wells that will be sequestering at about 8,300 feet. And it was picked originally for the geology, the suspected geology, which proved out. And then that's when the decision by AEP was to marry in the capture with the sequestration. Geology,
to some degree, Bob, seems to be overlooked in many circles and many conversations. Is it equally as important as the technology?
Let's say I like to view them as equally important because we're on the technology side as opposed to sequestration. But yes, it's very critical. And the thing is, it is very site specific. Like you can go 40 miles from the Mountaineer site to another power plant, and they found the geology completely unacceptable. So it is really critical. Every plant is not going to have good geology, which is why we're talking as an industry about how we manage the overall network of what's got to be done with CO2.
So a 10-megawatt plant in Mountaineer right now, and as you said, things are progressing well from the early standpoint. Following the success there, expected success there, is the potential for a 200-megawatt plant in Oklahoma. What needs to be accomplished before that goes down the road? And again, this is more of an AEP project.
No, it's really straightforward. What we're going to do is, Wisconsin was the proof of concept. We're now validating and optimizing at Mountaineer. And then we'll take that optimization and we'll really know the energy, we'll really know all the details, really to be able to do the full engineering the way it should be done, when you have all the information from design. And we'll build the 200 megawatt. And there's still kind of an issue exactly where that ends up in the AEP system, but we'll see.
You are especially well-versed, Bob, in regulatory affairs, government affairs. With that in mind, what do you make of the recent splits and divisions within the industry over climate legislation?
Well, I think it really gets down to the industry really wants the legislation. Mm-hmm. Okay, we all want the certainty because that drives the investment. It drives what we need to do. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people have different opinions as to how you reach that certainty. I think that, you know, Alstom has aligned itself in U.S. cap, and we're very strongly in support of a cap and trade program. Mm-hmm. We're an international company. We deal in Europe, we deal in Asia. We know cap and trade works. What we have to do is convince our Congress that this can work and this will support the price and support the industry the way it should.
Now, you mentioned joining U.S. cap. Alstom joined just in July, so not that long ago. U.S. cap came out with its big recommendations toward the beginning of the year. But groups have been dropping out of cap and dropping out of ACE as well, and there's this back and forth. There's not much of a united front.
Well, we've really only had one group drop out of cap, and that had to do more with, I'll say, government bailouts and Congress reaction to that company.
More politics.
More politics. But other than that, cap has actually grown. We're now up to, I think, 35 companies. And I think the people in cap really support that position, and that's the thing that's been made public. I mean, the unique thing about cap is we're a consensus organization, which is a true consensus. Whereas you take some of the organizations that you've heard of that we all belong to, and if you get a few people with an opinion, they make that opinion, and it doesn't necessarily reflect. And people have been making the point that they support the blueprint. We support what U.S. cap says, even though we belong to some other organizations that maybe don't.
Bob, final question for you. At the U.S. cap rollout of that blueprint, Jim Rogers from Duke Energy was very specific in saying that he expected CCS technology to be commercially viable by the end of 2015, early 2016. In fact, he said it must be. Is that still a realistic goal in your mind?
The first person who said 2015 was the president of Alstom Power, Philip Joubert, and he announced in 2003 that we would be commercial with post-combustion technology in 2015. We're hard on that line. We believed it. We're delivering on that line. Everything we're doing to date and all the development programs, the 10 demos we have around the world right now, are all focused on 2015, and we will deliver.
And it sounds like you are delivering some results already.
Exactly.
All right. Robert Hilton is with Alstom. He is Vice President of Power Technologies for Government Affairs. Bob, once again, thanks for taking time with us today.
Thank you very much.
Certainly. And thank you for joining us. You're watching Clean Skies News. I'm Tyler Suiters.